Welcome back, Upskill listeners, to episode 2 out of a 3-part interview series with Dickson Tang. I hope you're enjoying this interview series, and if you are, please subscribe and support the Upskill podcast so you don't miss any new episodes. Dickson Tang is a keynote speaker, author, facilitator who helps people and organizations get creative towards the future of work and business. His best-selling book, Leadership for Future of Work, 9 Ways to Build Career Edge Over Robots with Human Creativity, was featured in media such as Forbes, Irish Tech News, and Money FM 89.3. Dickson works with professionals from Cartier, Citic Telecom, JVC Kenwood, Novartis, Rakuten, and many more. So why does Dickson care so much about creativity and the future? Well, because the future needs creativity, but traditional schools don't teach creativity, and there's a huge gap to be filled. People call Dickson an ideas person. He loves to share ideas. And to find out more about Dickson, check out his website, www.dicksontang.me, or subscribe to his channel on YouTube, Dickson Tang. In episode 2, we covered a lot. Episode 2 is split into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. And the first part really covers his 3I model. So follow this part to understand in detail what his 3I model is about. Then we covered 2 concerns HR leaders need to face when it comes to implementing creativity. Also, we covered how to give your staff, your employees, your workforce the opportunity to fail, test their ideas, and also learn at work by exercising and practicing their creativity. Then we talked about the trends in the changing organizational structures and its impact on creativity, as well as the important role of culture. Then we also discussed the common themes of resistance and the pushback that leaders need to be expecting in creating more creative working environments, online and offline. Finally, we round up this podcast episode 2 with how to develop human capital, and there's much more too. Enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Upskill podcast. We're on episode 2 with Dickson. So welcome back, Dickson, to the Upskill podcast. Nice to see you again.
Hey, hi, Dave. How are you doing? Good to be back here. How are you?
It's very good. Thank you very much. And it's great to have you back again. I've been watching the engagement on LinkedIn, and I think the listeners are really enjoying the podcast so far. If anyone hasn't listened to the first episode just yet, please do so, because it's absolutely awesome to listen to. I really enjoyed listening to it. But now we're on episode 2, aren't we? I'm really excited to kick off the second episode with you, Dickson, to talk about infrastructure. And as the listeners may or may not know, you came out with a book recently. Maybe you want to just lead with that first of all, Dickson?
Oh, sure. Hi, everyone. Dickson here. Great to be on this show. So let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Dickson. I'm based in Singapore, and this is my book, Leadership for Future of Work, 9 Ways to Build Career Edge Over Robots with Human Creativity. And in this book, basically, I talk about how you can upskill yourself and prepare yourself for the future of work using creativity. That means how to upskill yourself with creativity. And in this book, I talk about 3I model, which include individual mindset, infrastructure, and ideas. So today, I think we are going to talk more about infrastructure, right, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. We covered the mindset part in episode 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And if listeners are curious to follow this conversation on LinkedIn, then I think we had some hashtags, didn't we, Dickson? We had hashtag future of work. Any other hashtags you would recommend the audience to follow on LinkedIn?
Oh, okay. Yes, I would recommend two hashtags. One hashtag is called creative human capital, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Hashtag creative human capital.
Yeah.
The other one is future ready creativity, right? Future ready creativity. So so I share a lot of content along these two hashtags, and I'm sure your audience will be able to find out quite easily. Now, if all fail, then never mind. Just use this hashtag called hashtag Dickson Tang, right?
Oh, great. Yeah, awesome.
DicksonTang.
Yeah.
So you will be able to find it.
I have been using it, and I recommend all people in HR, CEOs, CIOs. If you have a C in your title, then follow Dickson. Check out his YouTube channel. So let's dive into infrastructure. You talked about the 3I model. Could you tell us more about this model?
Oh, okay. So basically, if you want to develop your creativity, it is not a complicated process. You can focus on three things. The first thing you need to focus on is the individual mindset. That means you need to build a creative individual mindset. Secondly, you need to build a creative infrastructure, meaning that you need to be open-minded and creative in terms of the way you do things. And number three is about creative ideas, right? You need to be very comfortable working with ideas, right? So this is the gist of this 3I model. And today we are going to talk about specifically about this infrastructure. So what does that mean by saying infrastructure, right? Infrastructure means the way we do things, right? Infrastructure means the way we do things. Now, in the office environment or in the workplace environment, right, that means the processes we need to follow, the team structure, the shared organization value, the culture and everything. All this will be shaping up, right, the infrastructure. Right? All this will affect, right, the way we do things, right, in the organization. So today in this episode, I think we can, I'm happy to talk to you more about like how you can be creative, right, in the infrastructure. That means how you can be creative in the way you do things.
Right, and so from whose perspective will this benefit the most, in your opinion, people in the organization? Are you talking about everybody? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, okay, sure. I would say creativity is everybody's business. It is everyone's responsibility to upskill towards the future with creativity. But of course, if you're talking about the organizational setting, I think the senior management, the senior leadership team, the CEO, COO, HR director, operation director, they have a deeper responsibility because they are responsible of like driving the culture, mapping out the work processes, looking at the organization structure, right? So I think they need to pay more attention here because whatever they do, right, will have a huge impact, right, on their organization.
Totally. And that's why this is so valuable, not just to people in senior leadership, but people working in the company itself, to share, like a podcast like we're doing, to share with senior management and to discuss creativity, because we do need to, there's a lot of change coming, isn't there? There's a huge transformation taking place at the moment, isn't there, Dickson?
Yeah, exactly. So traditionally, our organization are very much of hierarchy, right? So you have a senior leader, you have different layers.
Yes.
But increasingly, the organization, right, is getting flatter, right? So
flatter, that's right,
So that is a big organizational change. And in this situation, right, your leadership style, the way you lead the company, the way you lead the team, right, also need to change. And that's why, right, the way you do things in the organization, right, need to be changed.
That's very interesting. And I think because we are both based I was going to say Vietnam, but you're based in Singapore, I'm based in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There are huge, for a long time in the West, we've had very flat structures. A lot of startup companies in many industries have adopted flat structures, bottom up teams for many, many years now. And do you see that inevitably taking place in Asia? Is that something that has to happen anyway in organizations in Asia?
Oh, I think in Asia, we are adapting fast. We are catching up fast. So traditionally, the organization structure in Asia is pretty much of hierarchy, right? So you have like different layers, like you report to one layer, then the next layer report to another layer. So traditionally, the organization structure in Asia are pretty much hierarchical. But we are seeing things are changing because of the advancement of the technology. The way of doing things, right, starting to be different. So I think in Asia we are adapting fast, but traditionally we are still growing up in a hierarchical environment, right? So that's why when it comes to infrastructure, yes, you need to make some changes, right? So specifically, right, I can see there are two things that could be of concern in Asia.
Two concerns.
Yeah, two concerns. And concern number one is traditionally, Asian people think that work is a serious business, right? That means working is serious. Okay? So when you go to office to work, right, you are not supposed to have fun. Okay? So that's one of the key
Don't
concerns.
have fun. If anyone's listening to this podcast, don't have fun. No, just kidding.
This is one of the concerns because traditionally Asian culture is work means serious, right? Work means business. So you should not have fun. You should not play, right, when you are in the workplace, right? So that's concern number one. Concern number two is in Asia, traditionally we don't want to fail, right? We don't want to lose face because in Asian context, so we don't want to take risks, right? So this is another concern. Okay, so to recap, right, what are the two concerns I'm seeing in Asia right now is concern number one is people think that work is serious, right? Work is not play. And concern number two is people don't want to try, don't want to fail, right? Because they are afraid of failure. Okay. Now, actually, in the journey towards the future of work, right, these two concerns, right, need to be addressed immediately because these concerns are actually holding the Asian organization back. Okay. So towards the future of work, okay, we need to embrace number one, work can be fun, right? Work can be fun, or play can be relevant, right? So that means we need to instill this okay, work is fun, and we need to so-called instill this playful culture, right? What does that mean, right? That means you need to encourage, right, your employee, your team member to have some fun, to have some activities, to do something not the formal way, but do it in the informal way, right? So that ideas will come up more easily. Right? So that's number one. Number two is you need to also install this culture of failure is good, right? Failure is good, right? You need to dare to try, right? Dare to experiment.
That's a tough one. That's a difficult one to crack.
But we have to because increasingly the future is of unknown, right? It is there's no so-called standard operating procedure to guide you to the future, right? So you need to always try new ideas, right? Try it, fail, never mind, right? You learn and then you try, right? Because if you don't try, you don't fail, you don't learn, right? Let me repeat, right? If you don't try, you don't fail, you don't learn. So that's why if you are senior leaders in organization in Asia, right, you need to encourage people, right, to take risks, right, to try to embrace failure, basically.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting what you're talking about here. First of all, work can be fun. And we don't mean, let's just, for the listeners' benefit, we don't mean that you go to work and you start cracking jokes to your colleagues, or you start, like playing guitar or playing piano and start, karaoke in the middle of the office, right? We're not talking about that kind of fun, just in case. I, I just want to make sure that no listeners go and,
Yeah, we are talking
right?
about having fun means like you loosen up your policy, you make it flexible, you make your
Yeah,
work policy more suitable to the employee,
yeah,
encourage your employee to share ideas. So
right.
yeah, so what could be fun?
Yes, and you talked about informal versus formal. There's a lot of formal meetings and situations where people just feel that stress, that like they don't even, they can't relax, and so you touched on that in the previous episode. And failure is good. I like what you said about failure is good. However, there do need to be some caveats to that, don't there? What kind of caveats would you put on failure is good? Because we don't want to give the impression to people in organizations that they should only fail, right? Because maybe some listeners said, oh, okay, then I'll just go to work and I'll just keep failing and it's okay, I can get away with anything.
Oh, okay. So I think in the
Right.
organization context, talking about this like embracing failure. So what you
Hmm.
can do is, if you're organization leader, you can encourage your staff, right, to take risks. So what you can do is you can break a big project into a smaller project,
Hmm.
give full freedom, empowerment to this particular team member. Let
Hmm.
he or she play around with it. If it's really fail,
Yeah.
never mind, right? Because
Nice.
it's still like a controllable risk. So I would suggest that you start small, um,
Yeah.
give them a small project, let them try, let them experiment. Okay, so that is point number one. And also point number two is it's not just about like getting them to fail, right? And that's it, right? If they fail, the experiment, they fail, ask them, right, to summarize what are the learnings, right? What are the learnings, right? So that
Hmm.
the learning will be transferable to other team members or to the subsequent cohorts. Right? So I would say number one, make it a smaller scale, like a experiment, small, trial, small. Number
Hmm.
two, um, try to get some learning out of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. I hope everyone was keeping note here on those points. I'm writing it all down myself. Super stuff, Dickson. Let's move on a little bit more. One of my questions I noted down for you was, what role do work teams, both interdisciplinary and non-interdisciplinary, as well as organizational culture, have to do with it? I think we touched on it, but
Oh, sure.
yeah, thanks.
Great question. Um, what we are seeing in the organization trends right now
Hmm.
are two things. Number one is um, increasingly the management style will be more like a team-based management style, right? So
Mm,
that means in the past, right, it could be the CEO or the head of department will dictate,
yes.
right, who is doing what. But now we are seeing that, right, the
Yeah.
management will be more shifted to the team-based, right? So it's more like a team-based management, right, rather than
Yeah.
like a leader-centric management, right? So this is
That's true.
the first change we are
Absolutely.
seeing.
Exactly. I'm aware of a lot of people, managers interested in becoming coaches, learning how to ask powerful questions. And right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is a big trend taking place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the trend number one. And also
Hmm.
trend number two is increasingly there will be a lot of like a cross-functional collaboration, a
Right.
cross-functional teamwork.
Hmm.
So what
Hmm.
does that mean is, that means, right, traditionally, right, if you are finance, you only work with finance people. If you're HR, you only work with
Exactly.
HR people. If you are the logistic people, you only need to work with the logistic people. But nowadays, right,
Yeah.
um, because of the internet, it really break all these silos, right? Help break all these silos.
Yeah.
I give you an example, right? I give you an example, right? So let's say if you run a company and in the past maybe you have a customer service department, right,
Hmm.
taking care of the customer satisfaction, right? So if a customer not happy, they will they will phone in or they will send an email to the customer support, right? Telling them, hey, I'm not happy. But nowadays, right, if you are not happy with a certain product or certain services, you will go to Facebook and then you will comment on, hey, this product sucks or this company sucks, no good.
Right. Yeah.
So in this case, it's not just about the customer service department duty, right? But it's also about the marketing department, marketing communication department. They need to look at the social media, and then they need to like take the comment and back to the organization and share that with the customer service department. And
It's a huge feedback loop happening.
Yes,
and
exactly.
workflow.
Exactly. So there would be a lot of like cross-functional collaboration, right? So in summary, right, these are the two trends happening. Number one, we are moving from like a leader-centric model to a more like team-based model. And secondly is we are moving towards more like a cross-functional teamwork, right? So if you are the senior management, be it you are the CEO or the HR leader, right? Time for you to think about this, right? Are you also helping the organization, right, to move to the future, right? So that's something you need to consider.
Excellent. And that's something you mentioned that I just want to elaborate on just for the benefit of the listener. You said breaking the silos.
Yeah.
And a silo is like a very big container, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And so a silo, we need to make smaller silos and kind of connect them together, the different departments, right? That's what you meant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So to put it in another perspective, you can imagine, right, in the past, right, the marketing department, right, there's a 4 walls, right, 4 partition, right, enclosing the marketing department. And then next you have the HR department, right? You have 4 walls, you have the silo, right? But now what you need to do is you need to break the wall, right? Break the wall between all this like function, right? So marketing need to talk to HR, HR need to talk to finance, finance need to talk to logistics. So you need to break all this wall. So that's what we mean by breaking the silos.
Exactly. And please, listeners, don't start literally breaking the walls in your offices. We don't want to be held responsible for any damages caused after this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Good reminder.
Yeah. So yeah, we touched on what business leaders can do, HR directors, learning and development managers. But let's look at the steps, more concrete steps that they can take. What would be step 1, 2, and 3 in your opinion for HR directors and learning and development managers?
Oh, okay, sure. So I think a couple of things they can do. Number one is they need to recognize that, right? They themselves need to be creative. Okay, so for example, if you're the senior leader, CEO, COO, or if you're the HR leader, right? So point number 1 is you need to make sure that, right, you are aware of the importance of creativity. That means you yourself, right, need to be creative, need to be open-minded, need to be innovative, so that the team under you, right, will be able to be creative, right? So point number 1 is you need to start from you, right? If you are the senior leaders in a company, you need to make sure that you yourself are creative, you yourself are open-minded, right? So that's point number 1. And point number 2 is what I call the hard approach, right? Hard approach. What does that mean, right? That means, right, you need to look at, right, the office environment, right, to see if you can make your workplace more suitable for the creativity development, right? So for example, if right now, right, all the furnitures you are using in the workplace, they have very tall partition, okay, you can't see one another. So that's no good for collaboration, right? So that's why you need to look at, right, I call it the hard approach. I mean, look at the fixture, the equipment, the facility, right, to see if you can make the workplace more easy for people to interact, to develop creativity.
And that I think is a great signal to the staff in the company that say, hey, something's happening here. There's a change coming in. We don't know, maybe we do know what's happening, or maybe we don't know, but at least somebody in a senior position is taking action and is showing their commitment to the ongoing development, right, of creativity in the workplace. I think that's a really great thing that they can, senior management can make a win with their staff.
Exactly. So I mean, like, so point number one is like they need to
Mm.
recognize it. They have to be
Yeah.
creative first, right, so that they can influence the rest of organization. Point
Mm-hmm.
number two is what I call the hard approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at how the facilities, furnitures can be rearranged so that
Mm-hmm.
you can provide a better physical environment, right,
Mm-hmm.
for people to network, mingle, and come up with new ideas. And the third approach is what I call the soft approach, right? Soft approach means, right, in your day-to-day management and leadership, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you try to ask for more feedback, ask for more ideas,
Right.
stop giving direct instruction,
Mm-hmm.
stop giving direct instruction, instead ask them for ideas, ask them for input, right, so that you can encourage your staff, right, to flow out the creativity juices. So these are the three things I think
Yeah.
the senior leader need to do.
Fantastic. And we're talking about a lot of exciting, things to look forward to. But from the perspective of senior leadership, there might be some frustrations, or they might see some friction or problems when it comes to actually doing all of this. So, you've worked with senior leaders on these kinds of issues. What kind? Can you speak to that a bit? What else? What are the
Sure.
problems? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, one of the key things I discover by
Mm-hmm.
talking to different senior leaders, like CEO, head of HR,
Mm-hmm.
head of learning in different countries.
Yeah.
One of the common theme, right, one of the common so-called frustration or obstacle that
Yeah.
they're having is they told me that, okay, although we want to move this organization to be creative and innovative, but a lot of time the resistance, right, is a huge resistance, right, from the
Pushback,
pushback,
resistance.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
resistance. Why? Because of two reasons, right? Number one is
Mm-hmm.
because Asian, they don't dare to take risks, right? That goes back to the points we made earlier. Is like they don't want to fail, right? Because they equal
Yeah.
failure means, right, no good, right? So that is something, right, holding the organization back, right? So this is number one resistant pushback is people don't want to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And number two is people tend to follow, right? People tend to follow. People tend to follow what are the proven method that works in the past, maybe 2 years ago, 5 years ago. People want
Yeah.
to follow what has been done before, right? People want to follow a template, right? So these are the two things, two
Yeah.
so-called frustration, right? From an organization perspective is like, number one, people don't dare to try new things. Number two, people want to follow something proven.
Yes, they do. They do. So it's about breaking down, again, it's mindset. It's breaking down habits, very ingrained cultural habits, organizational business culture habits. It's a tricky one, but this is really great stuff. So these are some of the common themes to push back that leaders, that people that you've been working with have been experiencing. Now let's move on a little bit to more obstacles, talking more about the Asian business context. Any successes? Maybe that's something we haven't touched on yet, talking about what happens when you do actually have a win with an implementation of creativity in the workplace. What do you see? What's the impact? How do you how have you measured that, let's say, in your experience?
Okay, great question.
Yeah.
I think different organizations will interpret the term, right, creativity differently, and but I think one simple way you can see, right, in your organization is you can check on your staff to see, are they comfortable with ideas, right? Are they comfortable with ideas? That means, right, are they able to generate ideas? Are they able to organize ideas? Are they able to select ideas? Are they able to pick one or two ideas and go implement them, right? So one way you can look at it is you can look at your team and see, are they comfortable with ideas, or or holding back, right? They don't want to share ideas. So I would say, right,
Yeah.
different people, different organizations interpret creativity differently, but one way you can explore, right, is encourage your people, right, to share ideas, to come up with ideas, to work with ideas.
That's really interesting, and so that's something to somehow for people in senior management to take stock of, first of all, before maybe they're considering doing some kind of implementation with creativity. And maybe the first step for them on a personal level is to kind of take stock, maybe just some mental notes, or, you know, in a journal, and then once the implementation has started and there's some wins, then to really kind of see the impact and to record that somehow. I think that's interesting. Yeah, generating ideas, organize. How are your staff organizing it? How comfortable do they feel? Yeah, that's really great stuff, Dickson. Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back to infrastructure and now moving on to human capital. As everyone knows, you know, the quality, the level of talent and ability that your organization has at any given time, it's going to define the performance, the outcome of your, you know, the capacity on an organization's ability to execute on their plans, on their campaigns, on product launches, new service launches, et cetera, et cetera. So talking about human capital, Dickson, what advice do you have to senior people in HR who want to create this environment, this creative environment?
Sure. Great. Human capital is very important as part of the infrastructure, right? As I mentioned, infrastructure is the way you do things. And of course, if you develop the right human capital, right, you will be able to do the right things in the organization. Right? So if you want your organization, right, adopt this like creativity, if you want to build this like creative infrastructure, that means you want to be creative in the way you do things, then of course you need to develop your human capital, right? So it's like, if you want the organization to be creative, right, you need to make sure that your human capital is creative. Okay, so how you can make sure that your human capital is creative? Then you need to make sure that, right, you change the way you do things, right? You change the way you do things. You encourage people to try new way of doing things, right? Instead of like using the same old way. Now, I would say, right, if you want to build creative human capital, okay, HR is very important. You need to first demonstrate creativity in the HR team, right, before you can cascade it down, right? You can flow this down to the rest of the organization. So that means, right, if you're the HR, right, you also need to think about, right, how you as an HR team, right, need to do things differently. Right? So that is my suggestion to the HR team is you yourself, right, need to think about how you can do things differently as an HR professional in the organization.
Totally. And so could you maybe provide an example of this? So I'm thinking about human capital. How can I do things differently? What kind of things may I want to change and why? And some examples,
Sure. I can give you an example. Let's say if you are the HR manager, and let's say you are in charge of recruitment. Okay, so you're HR manager. You're in charge of recruitment. That means you are in charge of like talent acquisition, recruitment. And let's assume, right now you are working in an automobile company. Okay, so let's imagine this for a while. You are the HR manager in charge of recruitment, working in an automobile company.
A car company,
now, right, you need to recruit skilled car mechanics, right? So someone who can fix the car engine, repair the car engine. Right? So you want to recruit a technical person, a car mechanics with good skills, right? Now, as you can imagine, right, nowadays, worldwide, there's a lack of skilled car mechanics, right? So like a good quality people in the technical field, right, is very difficult to get, right? So let me pose this question to you guys. So if you are the HR manager in charge of recruitment, you need to hire, let's say, 10 skilled car mechanic very quickly for this automobile company. What would you do, right? You need to get 10 people on board, 10 skilled car mechanic on board very quickly. What would you do, right? In terms of recruitment, what would you do? So most of you will probably, let's maybe advertise on those online job board and maybe post it on
LinkedIn. Yes,
Facebook. Right?
for
So
sure.
you will use all this like digital channel, and maybe there's maybe in each country, right? There may be some big job search portal, right? So you may be thinking, okay, I need to recruit skill car mechanic. Okay, so let's advertise on the website, right?
Yeah, and hope for the best, and kind of like fingers crossed, hope for the best. Let's hope we get some applications in, and then we.
Yeah. But you know, like typically the result aren't that good. Okay, but let me share with you an example happening in Germany. Right? In Germany, there's an automobile company. The HR manager, they actually need to recruit skilled car mechanic, but this HR team, right, is really creative. So instead of going for the traditional route of like advertising on Facebook, LinkedIn, job search portal, the HR had actually asked the HR guys to go out and get some second-hand car, right, with a damaged engine. Right? So basically,
you're kidding me. So the HR manager and directors
asked the HR team to go out of the office and go find some second-hand car with a damaged engine. Yeah, you may be thinking, why? I'm an HR manager, right? I should be sitting in the office. I should be managing the human capital. Right?
I don't do this kind of thing.
Ask me to go to the street and get some second-hand cars and get it, like bring it back to the company. Then then at first there's some hesitation, but after a while, then the HR team members, they are convinced. Okay, so they go out and they get some second-hand car with a damaged engine back to the office, and then the next step is the HR director asks them to print out, right, the job advertisement for the skilled car mechanic. Okay, so because they need to recruit skilled car mechanics, so they print out a job advertisement. Okay, recruiting for car mechanics. So they print it out. They print out the job ad. They ask the HR team member to fold it and roll it, and then after that, you know what? They stuff this job ad inside the second-hand car with the damaged engine. So they stuff it in there. Okay. So right now, all the second-hand car with a problem engines, inside the engine, there's this job ad, right, from this automobile company, recruiting skilled car mechanics. And then next step is, the HR director asked the team, hey, now guys, send this damaged car with a damaged engine to all the different car repair workshops across Germany. Right? Send this damaged car to all the car repairs workshop, right, with across Germany. Now, as you can imagine, right, the moment the mechanic in those like car repair workshop, they open up this damaged car, the damaged engine, right, the job ad will drop. And if I'm the car mechanic, it drops, I surely will read. And this is a job advertisement for skilled car mechanic. As you can see, right, this is much better than advertising online, because if you're advertising online, right, you can't guarantee 100% reach to your audience. But by using some creativity and combined with your HR practices, okay, you use this new way of recruitment, you stuff this into a damaged car engine, the job ads drop to you, you sure will read it, and this is 100% return on investment on your recruitment ROI, right? So,
and that's the point. That's return on investment, isn't it?
Exactly, that's the ROI, right? Returns on investment. That means you spend $100 on Facebook advertisement, maybe you can only reach, I don't know, like maybe like a 10 people or 20 people, right? But if you do that, right, it is 100% reach, because when they open up the damaged car engine, the job ads will show up for them.
Exactly. And it might require a whole marketing department to organize all the creative, to create those ads and the copy and running all the tests. It can run up quite a lot of money. But, you know, a lot of people listening, they might say, oh, well, that's fantastic, but, you know, oh, that just sounds so tiring and everything. But actually, when you think of it in terms of getting to your target audience, it's actually much more efficient, because you just need, you know, you're getting to somebody who is actually a perfect fit for your company, and whether or not they can, you know, give up their job and join your company, that's a different story. And depending on the problem with the engine, you know, there's some variables there, but that's a great case. And I think the listener will appreciate that there are different approaches to achieve the same thing.
Exactly. Now, for some of your audience, right, you may be thinking that, hey, Dickson, I'm not an HR manager, or I'm not working in the automobile company, right? Okay, that's fine, right? But that's not my main point. My main point is you need to like explore different things, right? Don't follow what have been doing in the past, right? You need to be open-minded. You need to be open to new ideas. Yes, I know you are not recruiting skilled car mechanic. I know you're not working in an automobile company, but like the principle, the essence of this case study, right, will remain.
Let's take this one step further, and we're getting to the end of this podcast. But like, I see a lot of companies in Vietnam recently posting, they're looking for candidates in IT, like backend Java, you know, people with Python experience, and, you know, lots of like coders and IT people. It's really booming at the moment, you know. Now, I'm sure that a lot of those people are into gaming. So where do gamers, you know, hang out? You know?
I think that is a great example, and that's a great question. Is like, so instead of keep telling people that, we need to recruit, right, like a programmer, we need you to have like this kind of software development skill, blah blah blah, right? So instead of focusing on the technicality, right, maybe what you can do is you can like look at like, where do this group of people hang out, right? Whether online or offline, and then maybe you can scoop them from there, right? So the point here I want to share with you is in terms of like infrastructure, the way you do things, you definitely can inject some creativity in the way you do things, right? So don't follow something that has worked in the past, right? Try to come up with something new, right? Inject creativity in the infrastructure. That means inject creativity in the way you do things, and that's what we means by infrastructure.
Like totally. Like, I mean, if I was a HR director, I would literally just say, okay, everybody, like talk to like 10, 20 people and say, we are not doing any stuff on LinkedIn. We are not doing any Facebook ads. I'm taking everybody to the nearest gaming center.
Yeah, possible, yeah.
You know, we're going to have a whole day there. We're going to give out lots of brochures. We're going to network with a whole bunch of, you know, very, experienced, you know, IT people or gaming kind of individuals. We're going to go to a conference, and we're going to try and collect some candidates.
Yeah.
You know, So hopefully that could make an impact. But are people going to take action? I'm not so sure. That's our job to help people to make that move, like you said, to make that leap in creativity. Yeah, excellent, Dickson. So this is kind of moving to the end here, I suppose. In your recent examples, you talked about, you know, German companies recruiting via this different approach. So maybe you could just summarize for the listener the traditional approach versus a more open-ended approach, and maybe a final example of how HR are embracing creativity at work.
Oh, okay, great. I think in summary, right, especially for the HR audience, right? So traditionally, your role is more about efficiency and compliance, right? So that means
Right.
you want to make sure that, right, you recruit someone fast, you want to onboard someone fast. So traditionally, HR function is very much about like efficiency, compliance, following the process. But
Right.
moving towards the future of HR, it is not just about the efficiency, is not just about the compliance, but it's about thinking about a new possibility. It is about using your creative thinking, right, to create better employee experience for the employees, create better learning experience for the learner, and create a better work environment for everyone, right? So there's a fundamental shift, right? So if you are the HR leaders listening to this podcast, and I would suggest you to be more creative and open-minded. And in fact, I'm not too sure if I've shared with you before. I actually have a list of different creative HR practices, HR policies, and things like that. I have to prepare a quick document. Later on, I can share that with your audience, and maybe after the show, I'll put the link. I'll put the link to you. Right? So this is specifically for the HR leader. So if you want to know how you can build and embrace creative human capital, make sure that you check out the link I provide you later, and then you can download some resources I prepare for you.
And that's a PDF. That's a PDF document they can download for free.
Yeah. It's free for your audience. Yeah.
I think they'll find that extremely valuable. And finally, how can people listening to this podcast, how can they contact you, Dickson, the best way?
Oh, sure. I have a website called dicsontang.me. So it's DICKSONTANG.me. So that's my website. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect me on LinkedIn. Now, of course, I also have a YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube, you type in Dickson Tang, you will be able to see me.
Absolutely. And this video will be posted in full length on my channel. And if you go into the description on my channel, I've also linked Dickson's YouTube channel. So you have no reason not to find us on YouTube, right, Dickson?
Yeah, fantastic. And let's connect and talk more and keep learning. Embrace creativity, embrace future of work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Dickson. See you in the next episode, episode 3.
You're most welcome, Dave. Cheers.
Bye for now. So that's it for another episode on the Upskill podcast. I really hope it brought you a lot of value, and make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor app, and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn too by searching for Dave Online and sending me your connection request. Bye for now, and see you in the next episode.